be completed in the spring of 2022. So I guess the good news story is the underground's in, off to asphalt. Weather permitting, like I said, will take place this week, which will afford the road to be maintained during winter control operations.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Any comments or questions? Councilor McGuire?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Director McMahon. I was wondering about the intersection at Lombard and Abbott now that the new lights are in and the turning lane's finished. What do we need to do to get rid of the no left turn signs at that location?
I'll have to look into that, Councilor McGuire, if I could.
Thanks. And my other question, I remember Director Dunlop left us with a list of kind of the finals on Beckwith Phase 1, and I know the some of the treatments for part of it. Is all of that stuff completed now, or is there anything left outstanding on Phase 1 going into Phase 2?
I believe there are some pavement markings left to be done for the crosswalks and whatnot that will be incorporated within the second phase. That's my understanding. And the first part of your question was with respect to Lombard and Abbott.
Yeah, first question, I guess, was the turning lane, and second question is just for that list that Director Dunlop left us with. Where's that at, kind of thing? If we could get an update, maybe at a future meeting of what still needs to be done and what's been done. And the new pole looks great, but yeah, it'd be good to get a closeout on that.
So I can get back maybe at the future meeting with respect to Lombard and Abbott. That would be great. We'd
appreciate that. Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the report and good news on wood. I will tell you that I went for my walk on, it was on Saturday, and they were working on Wood Avenue, and I had to turn around and go the other way, which is fine. That's good. The question I have is regarding Marguerite, because I know we had a letter from the citizen Marguerite, and it was to come back to a future cow discussion. So is that still on the horizon? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, definitely on the horizon. How I would like to approach that, I mean, obviously we've got a pretty full plate for 22 with Beckwith Street and other capital projects. I mean, currently we have open ditches on Marguerite Street that function, and it does drain the road and the front yards through that section of roadway. Certainly could be consideration once we get through Beckwith Street through 2022. It is on our radar for going forward, but I didn't feel it appropriate with everything else we have on the books to bring something forward for 2022 discussions with respect to budget.
Okay, thanks for that. Then through the chair, I just would comment that, I mean, the thought was when you have the workers there, it would have been a good time to do it, but I'm glad it's still on the radar.
Yeah, thank you. Just one final comment on that. I guess the one thing or where my apprehension kind of laid with that one is we don't have any engineering design done for that section of Marguerite Street. So it was a matter of timing and I guess not to muddy the waters with existing Wood Avenue and get the work done there. So certainly something we'll keep on our radar and we can look at in the future for sure.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think we should have done that before, but.
Any other questions or comments for Director McMahon? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. CEO Morris, I think you may have one as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My report is actually an announcement and reminder that we're hosting, council and staff are hosting our virtual public budget meeting on Wednesday of this week, starting at 5 o'clock. I would remind those that are listening from home or watching from home that there are several budget documents on the town website that you can have a look at. Our budget guideline is there. The objectives for the 2022 budget, the first draft of the budget is there as well as the treasurer's presentation she'll be delivering on Wednesday. So I would encourage people to participate. There are 4, if not 5 ways to participate. It's all on the website. You can register ahead or you can simply log in and ask questions during the meeting. So we're hoping for lots of public participation and certainly provide that opportunity for people to comment on their 2022 budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good reminder. Okay, moving right along. There were no comments on that. Good. We have no correspondence and no in-camera issues.
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
Chair,
sorry.
I think Director McMahon had another comment.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Chair, if I could, just one more report, director's report with respect to the open house that we have scheduled for tomorrow evening with the George Street design. It takes place at 7 p.m. Tomorrow evening for those that wish to log on via Zoom and participate. You have to pre-register with Vanessa Bernicki, and her coordinates are posted on Speak Up Smith Falls on the town's website. It was also posted via Facebook, the town's Facebook page as well. Yeah, so people from our engineers from Brew Galloway as well as town staff will be participating in that meeting to answer any questions that the public and or council may have at that open house. That's it.
Thank you very much, Director McMahon, for that reminder. And I do hope people sign up for that. And now I don't see anything else, so we can move on to 8.1, Town Hall Phase 3 report. Director Manhire, are you going to introduce this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you very much. So we're at a very exciting point in our planning for the Town Hall Phase 3. We're at 90% at this point. We've conducted a number of consultations, but most recently around IT equipment as well as some of the finishes. And what we're looking for this evening is just final approval on the layout as well as the finishes, as well as getting some direction from council on a Municipal Heritage Committee recommendation that's included in the report related to windows at the town hall. So what we will do is our plan is to go forward with this, get final approval from council for the plan. We're also looking to confirm quotes for the windows as well as for the IT equipment. And we will be including that to come back to council once we have all the final numbers. So if I can, Dan Wojcik has been our architect on this project with Plus VG for the last 3 phases. So Dan, if you wanted to lead that, that'd be great, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Manhire. Honorable Mayor, councillors, staff, thank you again for having me this evening to give and provide an update on the project, progress to date, and some clarification on the items that Director Manhire has already mentioned. A quick agenda tonight. It's going to be a little bit more of a brief presentation than usual, but we have some exciting news to announce. We'll go over the progress to date in the project, the material finishes, provide an update on some design items that were not included in the original document, but that have included tonight that show how we've addressed comments received to date. We'll review the IT consultation process for the chambers and the Emergency Operations Center. We'll review the cost estimate that we received for the working drawings that were submitted to a third party, and then finally we'll take a look at the schedule for the project. So progress to date on the left side is all of the tasks that we've already checked off and some of the presentations that you've already seen. Since we last met, we've provided some material selections for all of the spaces and provided a legend that indicate the corresponding location of those materials in the town hall. We've had a pretty thorough consultation with a third-party IT AV design company with emergency services and corporate services to better understand the requirements for the new system that will be implemented through this project. We've completed some room data sheet consultation with town staff to nail down what the finishes and some of the more specific attributes of the rooms will be in the project. We've completed a Class B construction cost estimate based on the documents that we've provided to date. We've also been constantly working in the background on the preparation of the remaining contract documents, including specifications, and working with Director Manhire to plan the procurement process. We've completed our building permit submission, which we received final comments for today, which were cursory comments. So we've resubmitted those back to building services, and we expect to have our permit in hand shortly, which is great news. And here it brings us to council meeting number 4 for the project this evening. So I'll just jump right into the material finishes to give it just a general idea of what our thinking was on this. The material finishes were selected to complement other areas of the town hall complex and create a sense of continuity in a multi-phase project. A palette of natural wood textures married with neutral and practical finishes will serve the town for many years to come. So in our selection process, we look back to phase 2. Certainly on main level of the building, there will be rooms that are adjacent to some of the work that was previously completed. But we're also providing slight differences in those materials as well. But we want to make sure that there's continuity in the project, that this phase feels like it's in keeping with all the work that's been previously done, and that there's one sort of overarching theme for the interiors at the town hall. Some of the objectives, like I said, were to provide continuity, to provide materials that have commercial durability and wear standards, provide materials that will be in production for a duration of time and will be easily replaced or repaired. Also to provide simple materials, timeless materials that can be sort of matched at a later date. And we also want to sort of make reference to the fact that this is the original, the location of the original council chambers in terms of our use of sort of wood and other natural materials. So we provided these sheets that are, you'll recognize some of the renderings are familiar, and then the corresponding sort of real materials that we're providing for these spaces that will be provided in the project specifications for consideration by the bidders. But there's not much difference in terms of what we've already shown you. We're just sort of putting real materials, colors, paints, finishes to these images that we're drawing in detail now. Some things to note are that the carpet finish is very durable with a sort of slightly hydrophobic coating so that it will last long into the future. Also, it's a modular carpet tile finish, so it can be replaced or repaired at any point in time. We're providing sort of a tile, ceramic tile in the public areas, the higher traffic public areas like and the bathroom areas. So we're trying to provide a continuity and finish in here. And that's something that's very durable and cleanable. Similarly, for the in-camera room, we're using some similar materials, but just have slight variations on those where needed, and using sort of plain neutral palettes and even in the washroom as well. Oh, sorry, I'm flipping around a little bit too much here. So that's the overarching sort of material palette for the project that we've selected. There's a lot of natural tones, oaks, cedars, and maples in certain areas that will be provide a sort of lightness and natural feeling to the interior of the space. There's accents of wood in a lot of locations here. We're showing the wood surrounds for the windows, but they'll have a wood finish on the interior, and also wood sills, so that we're trying to bring some warmth back into the design of this project as well. For a design update, there's been some outstanding questions that we've bringing some drawings or renderings to council this evening to update. On the side of the building, we're proposing to infill the door that no longer serves any kind of function and poses sort of somewhat of a risk from an operational standpoint for corporate services. So we're proposing to infill that door and then take materials that we found in other parts of the complex, some stone masonry material that we can actually will be a perfect match for the underside of this door. We'll infill it with 2 similar windows from above, which will have a sort of filler in between. It will have a sort of appearance here. On the top, we're removing the plywood filler panels that have sort of the smaller metal vents, and we're replacing them with a bisected 4-panel louvered vent that will be in keeping with the sort of appearance of the windows and the color of the trim of the building. On the front, we've changed the appearance of the handrail guardrails on the stairs and the walkway in order to provide something that's a little bit more sympathetic to the heritage of the building. We heard that from some councillors in our previous meetings. It'll still meet all of the standards, but just a little bit of a lighter look that is in keeping with the sort of heritage of the building. And we received a comment in a previous presentation as well that the town logo should not be sort of recessed or permanently cast into the material. So we're changing our design in order to provide a standoff for a metallic town logo that can be replaced at a later date should the town's branding change. Moving on to the IT AV consultation, there have been a number of sessions with town staff and emergency services to better understand the overlapping needs of the council chambers and the emergency operations center. There's a list of items below that are very detailed. I won't itemize them all, but these are the sort of a high level list of some of the requirements that have come out of those consultations. We are in the process of determining what the full scope of this piece of the project is going to be in relation to the budget. And we are looking at options to value engineer the cost of this piece of the project. And I believe Director Manhire will bring that back at a later date to council. But what the overarching and important aspects of this package are a wireless microphone system and a live stream camera system, which will enable sort of seamless council meetings for people that are in attendance in person or at a remote site. So this will sort of solve a lot of the issues that will serve the town well into the future, and will provide that sort of highly functioning IT services for council meetings. And for the EOC equipment, the emergency services staff have provided us with quite a comprehensive list of items that they require for their use. So our goal is to make the chambers as functional as possible for both services. Moving on to the cost estimate, we've submitted our documents, construction documents for costing, along with a project brief that describes some of the finer details of the project. We received a Class B construction estimate back, and with a value of $1,845,346.29 for the construction and contracting services for the project. That cost includes everything that we've described up to date, including the full fit out of the building, with the exception of the AV IT hardware which we are consulting on currently. There's also been some discussion about providing sort of custom heritage wood windows for the building. So we've gone ahead and discussed this with some carpenter partners that we've done other preservation restoration work with, who are keen to do this project. There's a little bit of quite a cost surplus in order to provide such a custom wood window product. So we got a quote back for the full complement of windows at $170,000. The product that has already been presented to council is the aluminum clad wood window. That's more of a manufactured project from Pella, was in the $75,000 to $80,000 range for the windows. This does not include any of the doors that are associated with the project. The front door of the building has already been built recently, but will be modified to address comments we received from the accessibility committee. So this construction cost estimate is a little bit higher than what we had initially budgeted at the outset of the project. We're witnessing inflated costs for material labor on almost all of our construction projects, which I'm sure council has witnessed in recent months. We're also witnessing supply chain issues that are resulting from different specialties related to electrical, plumbing, or anything that's crossing the border, essentially. Those are some of the drivers for the cost. We've also, after doing the designated substance report study, we've realized that there's a high level of remediation required for this project. There's a number of hazardous materials, and also through the design and the structural analysis of the building, we've slightly increase the scope by restructuring the basement. As many of you may know who have walked around corporate services, the floor is a little bit has a little bit of a bounce in it. That's because some of the structure in the basement is failing. So as part of our project, we're going to fix that and provide a stable structure for the footing of the building. But that does require incorporating some steel elements in the basement, which is a crawl space, and comes at a premium. In terms of the schedule, we are making good progress on our contract documents and specifications. Those will be completed by December 10th in preparation for a tender period to select a general contractor. Of course, all this is pending approval from council. That we want to leave open because we're tendering over the holiday season. We want to leave open for some time after the holidays in order to provide the bidders sufficient time to close the bid. So we're anticipating sort of a mid-January bid close, and then a few weeks for construction mobilization and award of contract. So that would bring us to a February 1st, potentially start of construction on site. We start demolition, and then we're anticipating a 6 to 8 month period we've provided sufficient sort of leeway in the construction schedule. A 6 to 8 month period would suffice for this project, but that would result in a July to September completion for the project. So that brings me to the end of presentation. I'll just share my screen here and turn it back over to Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate that. Councillor Dwyer, why don't you start us off?
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for coming back. It was nice to see kind of a lot of the comments that we provided at the last round incorporated again. You've done a great job of that, just as you had based on the comments that we gave you before that. So slowly but surely, we're getting to a really fantastic project. I think I'm kind of two minds on this project, and I say this, and hopefully council can continue to debate it because I'm not quite sure how I feel. But on the matter of issuing pre-budget approval for this project, I'm a little hesitant to do so because we are so far over our budget figures for this year, and staff are cutting considerably out of the budget, and those discussions should wrap up within the next couple of weeks. I don't see it being a priority to get pre-budget approval for the scope of work on this project without finishing those other discussions. And I can appreciate that the reason it appears that we're rushing through pre-budget approval on this so that we could get construction underway is because we are seemingly hopeful that the construction will be finalized in time for inauguration at the end of next year. But I do worry that the timeline that we've left ourselves with a completion of July to September, given the scope of additional works that were originally not anticipated in this project. And we all know that with old buildings, as you open up more and more walls, that list is only going to continue to grow. I don't know that it's reasonable to think that we're going to be back in the council chambers by the end of the year for inauguration. And with that in mind, I'd rather finish the financial discussion about what the rest of the year looks like before moving ahead with this project. But that's just my 2 cents, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Comments further? No one going. Director Manhire, do you want to comment?
Sorry, just to be clear, Mr. Chair, we're not looking for pre-budget approval at this point, and council can discuss kind of the timing for the project. What we are looking for is just, acknowledgement and approval of the finished pieces, and then some direction on the windows so that we can put together a final budget estimate for the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Dwyer that since we're having these conversations in the next couple of weeks, we might as well have them in context. I've got some questions about the presentation tonight, but I don't know if there's any other comments on the pre-budget approval or how that's going to work.
sorry, Director Manhire just said that we're not seeking pre-budget approval tonight, and that we have the
Okay, so we're
budget
good to go.
process.
Okay.
That's what
Sounds
I
good.
understood. Yeah, thank you. So if you want to comment on the presentation or some of the discussion on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give some feedback. Starting with, I don't think we got the presentation uploaded tonight, so I'm just trying to match my notes from now to the slides here. For the stone in the back of the chambers, I'm wondering if we could put the coat of arms back there instead of a metallic thing. I'm worried if we're taking metallic off and changing it with the logo, there's going to be holes in it. But the coat of arms is the coat of arms. The town, I don't know that it's going to change as often as the logo. With the materials for that stone, is that local stone, or what's the story of that being kind of center focal point of that room?
We have it as a honed marble finish in our material sheets. So I don't know that there's a marble quarry locally with that finish, but if there is, we would be happy to specify to the best of our ability that the products be sourced locally within a certain radius.
Great. And even if there was an alternative product that was, I'd be happy to see that. For the Church Street facade, it's great to see that rendering. And it sounds like you've got a good match for the stone. I'm wondering, is there an advantage, or what's the advantage of having the double windows if we've got a really good stone match, to just have that window fit the lintel above it and fill in the side and fill in the bottom if the stone matches now? Or what's the advantage of having this double pane setup?
Well, the double pane are the same, the two that are same proportions of the other windows or openings in the project. We've found that there's a few locations in the building, like in the attic space and also in the rear fire escape, where we can harvest stone so we're actually using the exact same stone from the building. We didn't anticipate narrowing that opening because there's already a lintel somehow supporting that stone, but we are considering adding additional keystones to widen the keystone over the opening if we're going to be doing some more work, masonry work on that side.
Great. So there's an opportunity to bring that together and make it look finished.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's our intention, is to tidy that up because it just kind of looks a little bit unbalanced right now.
Okay, that's great. For the sashes and the window buttons, I'm wondering, are we sticking with what it looks like? Is what's proposed based on what it used to look like, or is it just based on the most recent update of those windows?
Well, it's based on the appearance of the town hall complex to date. So I do understand that there's a double hung window previously that didn't have a transom over it, but we're trying to match what's on the other side, so we get this kind of visual appearance. The windows are not sort of part of the designation statement of the building, so we felt like it's the layout that is there currently works quite well, so we're keeping that.
Okay, just taking a look here. Does the quote include the unfinished work from phase 2 that hasn't been completed yet? Maybe Director Manhire.
Yeah, sorry, what work specifically is that? The hose tower work, or?
Yeah, for example, the windows in the hose tower, the fire hall doors, the sign still isn't up at the front. Is that stuff going to be finished in phase 3, or is that stuff been parked?
Our scope doesn't extend to the hose tower for this stage of the project. I haven't discussed the signage at the front of the building with Director Manhire, but it hasn't been included to date.
Great, thanks. So I guess my comment on the windows would be, I'd prefer to see them the way they were when it was built. I think the ones in there now look just out of place and more modern than needed, but yeah, those are my comments for now. I look forward to hearing everybody else.
Thanks, Councilor McGuire. I know Director Manhire just popped his hand up there, maybe in response to your comments around phase 1. Do you have anything to add to that, Art?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was more in reference to the work on the hose tower. We have a request from the Municipal Heritage Committee around the finish for those windows and doors. We've been soliciting some quotes over the last several months, trying to get a heritage carpenter, and the cost estimates are significant. So we've got one more that we're going to pursue, and then we'll bring that back to council for a decision.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with comments? Councillor Brennan?
No, thanks for the presentation. I mean, this is, it's very exciting. And I think one of the directions you were looking for was on the windows. And going through the presentation and as you just mentioned, the two treatments of the windows, there is about $100,000 difference in the cost. My question is this, and I probably know the answer, is the durability of an aluminum window and the wooden window, and also the look of it. And so would there be any sort of difference looking at it than the materials?
Well, the durability of the aluminum, it's an aluminum clad wood window. So the example that we had provided is actually a wood window that's just clad in aluminum on the exterior. So the interior, you get all the warmth of the wood. The exterior would just appear to be painted wood. The ongoing maintenance issues for a heritage window are significant. The windows that we quoted, we asked them not to use a putty system, which is like a very authentic heritage window. Then they were going to use sort of a wood trim, but it would just be an ongoing painting, refinishing, maintenance issue. It certainly provides a very beautiful, authentic sort of appearance, but for the purpose of this project, where the windows are not part of the designation statement for the building, we would suggest that it's probably better from an operational standpoint to use an aluminum clad product.
Okay, thank you. And through the chair, just to clarify the aesthetic look, is there a big difference?
No.
Okay. So my preference would be what you are suggesting, and in terms of the there is no pre-budget consultation here. I mean, we've decided we're going to be doing this project, and I support what I see in front of me, and let's get it going, and let's get this council chamber accessible. I mean, the big thing for me is accessibility into the chambers and the technological capabilities that we're going to have to do a meeting like this and be in person, and we can have however many people want to watch it as possible. So I'm all for it. And thanks for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Could we deal with the window? Now everybody wants to speak. Do you want to just go ahead and speak, and we'll come back to the two decisions that we've been asked to consider tonight?
The windows.
Well, I just wonder, is there a sense on the windows what people want? And Councillor Alford, do you want to comment on that?
Just one question. Is there any difference in the energy efficiency of wood versus the wood clad?
Well, the product that we've specified or that we've provided already with a sample is a thermally broken product. The wood windows they're built in the same way that they would have always been built, even 100 years ago. So they're certainly less efficient. We would be using an insulated glazing unit in the window. It wouldn't be a single pane in a heritage window. But I would say that the manufactured product provides more consistency and efficiency than a handmade product. So it's more, the manufactured window, the aluminum clad windows would be more efficient. It would also have an official rating, so we would know what the performance of that product would be officially, whereas the other one hasn't been tested.
Thank you, and I appreciate your presentation. With regard to the windows, we're balancing a couple of competing interests here, and while I appreciate the sensibilities of the MHC, I too think there are climate considerations in this town hall as well. And so with regard to the windows, I'm going to support Mr. Wojcik's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dwyer, do you want to comment on the windows? And we'll go to Councillor Allen.
Well, sorry, Mr. Chair. No, Councillor Allen can go first, and then I will provide comment on windows.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Allen, please.
No, I would prefer the wooden windows. I mean, the Municipal Heritage Committee had it brought to us and we went in and looked at both. But I also feel that wooden windows, I mean, right now you're saying that, what about temperature control and the life expectancy? A well-made heritage window can last a building's lifetime if it's taken care of. And people will say you have to paint it, but I mean, we have windows in our home that we every 7 years is about right. And they just look different. They just have more authenticity. And this old building, like, we haven't put a lot of our money and our time into our heritage buildings. And this is one I think we should. That would be my thought. I love the idea that we're getting rid of that door going nowhere. Like Councillor McGuire, I think it would be nice if we could put it back to the original keystone. If not, though, I really liked your idea of matching them and making it so that it would match the others. I think that would work as well. I like the colors that you've chosen for the inside. But I think we're just supposed to be talking about windows. So those are my thoughts on the windows. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Mayor Panko.
Yeah, so if we're talking simply the windows, I guess with respect to the preference of the MHC, based on Dan's comments, I support the recommendation. I think the finish will, if it's, while I'm sure there's a trained eye would see a difference, and we would see a difference up close. From the street level, I'm sure the wood aluminum cladding would look very respectful and suitable. The lack of maintenance needed for years to come simply means that we're not burdening more cost and more maintenance on future councils, and also we're trying to do what we can from a climate change standpoint, and if we can tighten this building's envelope and provide windows we know that are going to reduce our carbon footprint, there's more value to that as well. So all those factors said, and considering it's not part of the designation, the windows are not part of the designation, I will support the recommendation, and especially again, considering it's about $100,000 savings.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Dwyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll support the staff recommendation for a couple of reasons. One, the windows that are in that building right now are not original anyways. They haven't been original for quite some time. And as much as I appreciate Councillor McGuire's comments about the fact that it would be nice to not see a transom in the top and have properly proportioned windows, I don't think it detracts from the architectural style that's exhibited from the building today. So I'm comfortable with it. I think we've also seen great use of heritage style custom windows in town in previous projects, most notably the Rideau Hotel, where the windows were custom vinyl windows to replicate the details of the, Chris is shaking his head. You can counter my point later. But I do think that you can successfully restore a building with vinyl windows. I'm not that much of a traditionalist. I will also say I appreciate Councillor Allen's comments about the fact that there's a misconception about how much maintenance is required for wood windows. I hear you. I will, however, say that the town of Smiths Falls are not great stewards of traditional heritage buildings. And my fear is that if we are going to put up wooden windows, that we are not consistently adequately resourced to care for them, I'll say. And so for those reasons, I think I'm supportive of the vinyl.
Okay.
As a fun fact, I will also note the only two original windows in the town hall complex are the tombstone windows on the old school. They were supposed to be repainted as part of the works and restored. The windows were supposed to come down and the wood frame was
Okay.
supposed to be properly restored. I don't believe that ever happened, but they are the only two original windows.
Thank you. So we have, and I too support the staff recommendation on the windows. So there's the majority by far have chosen the window option. Last word to you on the windows, Councillor McGuire.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I can live with the aluminum, not vinyl windows. And I think it's important to note Parkview did find a really cost-effective solution for custom-made wood windows that were made in North Frontenac for the big round windows on the first floor with the detail. To me, the more important question here that hasn't gotten a lot of discussion is the sash bars and the muttons, because every single picture we've got of this town hall in this presentation shows the two sets of 3x2 panels. And at some point, probably when the last renovation was done in the 70s, those were taken out and put in with this transom style that is really crowded for this space. And I think it's important that it's going to completely change the look of the front of that building if we go back to how it was intended to look. So as much as I can live with the aluminum windows with the wood inside, I really think the two sets of 3x2 is important here. So I'm not sure if anybody else does, but I think it's worth a discussion.
Well, I appreciate that you do feel that way. Dan, do you have any comment on the point that Councillor McGuire just made? Is it as simple as just changing the design?
Revising the drawings. Yeah. This is consistent with the project that's been presented at MHC a few times, but if I understand Councillor McGuire's opposition or concern, there's no additional cost to the project in order to change that, just a change of direction.
And would it be consistent with the rest of the complex?
Yeah, there are vinyl windows in the schoolhouse next door that will need to be replaced soon at some point. It's consistent with some of the heritage photos that we've shown in our presentation, as Councillor McGuire's indicated. So it's just a very large double hung window. So I believe that's probably why at some point they were added to transom, because it would be a very heavy window. It's big. It's a huge window to have a double hung unit in. Honestly, I don't feel like it detracts, as Councillor Dwyer stated. I feel the same way. It doesn't detract from the image of the building. But as I mentioned, it could be a comment that we could implement into our design.
Will these windows be fixed, or will they be able to be opened?
They'll be operable windows. Yeah.
Thanks. Well, that's nice. I'll just turn to council. Leave it as is. We've got a consensus on the aluminum clad wood as presented, and Councillor McGuire suggested tweaking that design. What do you feel, Mayor Panko?
Yeah, I'm fine with trying to replicate the original windows on there. Looking at the photos, I know they're going to be large. They'll be large double hung if we went that route. But I assume with today's technology, they will be. Ease of function would be probably much better than they would have been maybe at one point in time. So I'm fine with Councillor McGuire's suggestion.
And I saw Councillor Allen nodding. She was fine with that. Anyone else to change, to tweak that? Councillor Brennan, do you have any thoughts on that? So the architect
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
It's subjective, I think, in my view, and we need to get this project going.
Okay. So we've got 3 people suggesting to tweak that design, unless I hear Councillor Dwyer. You're okay with changing it too?
Yeah, I'll tweak the design.
Okay. And so will Councillor Alford. So does that give you enough direction on the windows, Dan and Director Manhire? Yes, okay, good. Now, the other question was regarding the committee's recommendation in relation to, then the finishing, we didn't spend a lot of time on it. I saw a lot of okay. Are we good with the finishings? Or do you want to, anybody want to comment? Mayor Panko?
No, I'm pleased with what Dan has come back with for the finishes. I think
Okay.
it's appropriate, sympathetic to the heritage of the building, and I'm all fine moving forward with this as we have discussed and planned in the past. I know we're not seeking pre-budget approval, but I'm eager to see this completed, and as been stated, we need to get the accessibility improvements in place, the technology improvements in place. We need to get council back housed in an environment that's suitable, and even the students. I mean, that environment is not even, it has been deficient for a long time, and we need to move it.
Okay. And I did hear earlier from Councillor Alford and Councillor Brennan that they were happy with the design features unless they've changed their mind. And Councillor Dwyer was, and Councillor Allen, you're okay with that? Please go ahead, Councillor Allen.
I agree with Councillor McGuire's thought on the logo. I think the coat of arms would be nice there, and it would be something that we could keep, wouldn't have to be changed. Just the other thing I just wanted to say for all of council too, I sit on the accessibility committee, and this came to us, and I thank you again for bringing it to us. And the feeling there was that it's time. We're so happy that a beautiful old building like this will be accessible to everyone in our town. It's great to see it that way.
Councillor Alford.
Yeah, I'm fine with the finishes, but the suggestion that Councillor McGuire made with regard to the coat of arms, I think it's a more timeless one than any logo that we could put up. The logo that we have now is quite modern, so perhaps we should consider the coat of arms as opposed to one that's we've changed brandings several times in my so I think maybe the coat of arms might be a more timeless one.
I'm seeing nodding. Okay, it's the coat of arms. And if that's doable, that's great. Are there any other questions on the other aspects? I had one on the emergency control checklist. I wondered, and I don't know who can answer it, if that equipment is portable or is it intended to be fixed on that site? If something happens to our town hall, have we lost our emergency control site, or can it be moved? Director Manhire?
So the EOC at the town hall is our primary EOC. We have a secondary EOC at the wastewater treatment plant, and the equipment is fixed. And part of the reason for doing that is to provide that assurance that we can hook up and make sure that we have the proper connections during an emergency. But there will be a secondary set, not as fulsome, but a secondary set at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, so you've built some redundancy into this. Yep, thank you. Are there any other questions on any other? CEO Morris, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in the spirit of clarity, I just want to reiterate the path forward. This has been a very helpful discussion. I think Dan now has the direction he needs to finalize the design and therefore prepare the tender package. The only outstanding item as I see it are the IT and AV costs. We may have those as early as week's end, the end of this week. So at that point, our plan was to come back for pre-budget approval and have that discussion. Council has two options. We can incorporate this into the budget discussion, but it would be premature and maybe a bit disingenuous to tender the project without budget approval. So that would delay the tendering process to February and consequently delay the completion of the project into the autumn. So we will bring that back. I just wanted everyone to be aware that was our plan. And of course, we'll seek direction on whether you're comfortable providing pre-budget. But the the project schedule that Dan had presented is based on initiating the tender process right away.
Right. Okay.
So what that means is we'll have a pre-budget discussion either next week or on the 13th of December.
And our budget is moving along anyway, so it'll be okay. Thank you. Seeing no more. Oh, Councillor McGuire, please go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to bring up 2 points that the Municipal Heritage Committee discussed. One was the paint color for the outside trim work, and the other was cleaning the stone. The rationale was that if we're updating the windows and we're updating the trim, that be included. Is there support for those ideas?
Thank you, Councillor McGuire. I did see 2 pictures, one without the library in it and the trim was white. And then after, when they added the Carnegie Library, the trim had changed to black. So I don't know what the original actually was. It looked white to me, and the whole complex is white. But I'll ask my colleagues, is there appetite or is there a budget for adding a paint job to the facility? And if we did that, would we want to change it? Councillor Alford.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I want to make sure I understand that. So all of the Welcome Center is all white trim, and what we currently have redone in phase 2 is all white trim. So would we just not continue with that same palette?
That's what the design is calling for, but Councillor McGuire is suggesting something more original, I guess. Is that right, Councillor McGuire? So, now, black you had mentioned earlier in other conversations on this.
Yeah, and this is one that I think from the information we had at the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting, like obviously the first slide of this shows white and no library. So I don't know, and it's not something that really is going to affect the tender process. I think washing the walls is the big one.
Okay.
Cleaning up the stone.
So it sounds like the paint color is okay the way it is, unless I hear differently. And now on to the cleaning the masonry stone. Councillor Dwyer, why don't you weigh in on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did notice when I drove by the facility last week that the paint did look quite peely and that it does need a paint job. As part of our asset management strategy, do we have a yearly cycle for when the building will be cleaned, repointed, painted? Given that we just had the buildings repointed, I would have thought that they would have done some stone cleaning then. Perhaps Art or Malcolm can answer that.
I'll look to Director Manhire to see if he's got a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the councillor pointed out, we did have the building repointed approximately, I want to say 8 or 9 years ago, is it? Longer?
Excuse me, less than that.
Okay, it was before my time and I've been here 7, so sometime between then.
Okay.
We can actually clean the stone on the outside in between the pointing without affecting that pointing too much. So.
And without affecting the budget too much, or? Okay. Councillor Alford.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do think that the stone will need to be cleaned. I'm not sure it needs to be done in 2022, as I don't think I'd want to undertake cleaning it until Beckwith Street reconstruction was completely done, which isn't really going to happen till September. So I'm thinking maybe the cleaning should wait till 2023, and the next council can make that. Between construction at Town Hall and construction on the street, it may not be the right time to start cleaning the stone until all that work is done.
Good point. Councillor Dwyer, you want to jump back in?
Yeah, sorry, thank you. Just to clarify, I didn't get an answer to my question, but what is our maintenance strategy for cleaning and repainting this building?
Mr. Chair, we don't have a current strategy at this point other than the condition of the asset, and we do it as needed. And as Councillor Dwyer pointed out earlier, we do need a more comprehensive plan around how we do those pieces, and that's part of what we're developing in terms of our overall strategy on maintaining the buildings, as well as you know, keeping the condition of the asset in proper repair. So right now it is not a resourced piece, and what we are looking at is the best way to resource that task and that duty.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Alford. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we going to deal with all the MHC recommendations? Are we going to discuss those so that those can be either finalized or incorporated? Is that the intent tonight?
I turned to council. I thought with the staff report, the key ones were, and Councillor McGuire's done a good job bringing those forward, the windows, the stonework on the outside and the painting, and there were some other ones. I'm assuming that much of the earlier comments were incorporated into the design. They got into the hose tower, which we've already heard is outside of the scope of this project, if I'm not mistaken. So those comments are off the list. And the interior furnishings, we've, I think, said all along that if there's a beautiful door or something and we can reincorporate it, that will be done where it can be and where it's feasible. So what am I missing, Councillor Alford? Is there more?
Well, there was a couple things that occurred to me, Mr. Chair, that the Municipal Heritage Committee requests the opportunity to review final design of the Church Street facade and the design for the accessible ramp along Beckwith Street facade and any other modifications to the exterior. With regard to the design of the accessible ramp, that went through the Accessibility Committee and it is their design. Again, we're trying to balance competing interests in this town hall between climate change and accessibility, cost certainly, and MHC recommendations. But those I don't necessarily think those have to be go back through the MHC committee. That's the motion that they've asked for, and I'm not sure how we respond to some of the things that MHC has asked for or recommends, or do we as a council, or are we doing that right now?
Well, I just went through, sorry, if you don't mind, I just went through a summary of the things that we cannot address in the scope of this. And I went through a summary of items that we've agreed to or I've already made decisions on. I don't know, and the interior furnishings we've just done, and we've already, so I think we've agreed to almost everything with the exception of they wanted to one more look at it. Unless we, by doing that, give them the impression that they could come back with more changes. I think we've also heard that we're ready to get moving on this project. So Councillor McGuire, you had your hand up. Do you have a comment on that, on this question?
Yeah, just a comment. I think the motion really reflects the fact that the recommendations on phase 2 weren't followed, even though they were accepted. So I think that's where the wordiness comes into a lot of this. I think we've addressed a lot of it tonight. I think the concerns about filling in that space with the door right now have been well addressed by Dan. And you know, as a courtesy, if we can send that off to the committee for the December meeting, I'm sure they'd be happy to take a look at it. Other than that, I think most of this stuff has been addressed tonight, unless Councillor Allen, I'm missing something.
Mayor Panko?
Yeah, the other piece, I guess, just the recovery of the interior furnishings for repurposing. I would suggest windows and doors and anything else. We should, I guess, reach out to Real to see about their appetite to receive the stuff that can be recycled, reused by others in town.
Good suggestion. Councillor Allen?
Yeah, I think they're referring there mostly to the you know, the original tables that are in the council chamber, the old chairs that are there, the whole atmosphere in that room could be moved to another heritage asset that where it would look beautiful. I think that was am I right, Councillor McGuire? I think they're hoping that, you know, we don't just like, before sending them to Real, I think we need to be looking at where's their spaces, maybe in our museum at the Heritage House, maybe in the basement area that they sometimes have work with children or whatever. Maybe that table would be better suited there. You know, we own it, so maybe we should be just trying to look for a home for them.
So yeah, and there's a lot of nodding. We don't want to, none of it we want to see in the landfill. So starting first with our own towns, municipalities' needs for any of these. I'm sure staff are used to doing this, moving those assets. If there's a good home for them, do that. Secondly, finding a suitable or another place like Real to take them. And the last thing, if something can't be salvaged, then it can't be. But council would love to see this repurposed and reused and recycled wherever possible. Okay. So I think we've covered off everything on this. Are there any outstanding questions, Director Manhire, that you didn't get answered to tonight? You've got direction, and we're going to be talking about some IT budget pieces in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll be talking about the final budget and whether the timing on sending this out for tender. But it looks like before Christmas is our goal, but we will have another discussion in a couple of weeks when we see the final budget. Thanks so much, Dan, to you and your team, and to Director Manhire for keeping us close to on track. And we look forward to getting this project going. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
So, Mr. Grenke, are you with us? Senior planner, to talk about the 7 Maple Avenue site plan report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'll keep this brief. Staff are bringing forward a recommendation to grant site plan approval to a redevelopment at the corner of Maple and William Street. That's about a block to the west of the Hotel Rideau. So that site has historically been used for as an old medical building, a 2-story commercial building that has been removed over the course of the last couple of weeks. The developers, Hammer and Nails Developments, propose to construct a 4-story mixed-use building, which will include some ground level parking and two commercial units on the ground floor facing William, and then 33 residential rental units on upper stories. So this development, certainly I'd like to credit the developers for their work on this project. It's an important property, a highly visible property on the gateway and in entry into town, and the design and the site plan that's presented to you ticks a number of the boxes outlined in our official plan relating to town design and the downtown core, and certainly we'd like to credit their proposal, particularly to bury the power lines along both frontages, which will allow some vegetation. So the Planning Advisory Committee has reviewed a draft of the site plan. They supported it pending some additional work that they'd undertaken with the Public Works Department and Planning Services. So at this point, we have an application that we're recommending the committee approved, and if council supports this application, we can bring forward a bylaw to the next available council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grenke. Let's start with Councillor Allen tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this and look forward to seeing it. It's sat derelict for quite a while. And one of the things I just wanted to commend the developer for too was putting the wall. As you know, this building is right beside a little business that's been there for a very long time, very successful business. And the fact that they're doing the, I'm just trying to, masonry wall along there and sharing the costs of that, I really commend them on that. No, I look forward to it. I think it's something we need very much, and it's going to be a much better corner from now on.
Councillor McGuire, you had your hand up there.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the Planning Advisory Committee. This is really exciting. One of my first memories growing up in Smith Falls was watching Durant's burn down from my bedroom window. And since then, it's just been, we get more spaces opening up and spaces filled in, and to see something, 4 stories right downtown, making use of an underused lot and putting the building right at the corner. So it's really going to positively affect the pedestrian experience. Was really, really happy to see this come on the agenda this week. My only question is, do we have, I know on the Beckwith Street North development, there's a lot of vents and utilities on the front, on the street facing facade. Is there anything we can do at this stage to ensure that all that stuff will be at the back of the building when it's built?
Mr. Grenke, do you want to comment on that as part of the site plan? I'm assuming he's referring to.
Yes, just to through you, Mr. Chair, to clarify with Councillor McGuire's question, you're looking at with respect to hydro boxes, those sorts of features.
Dryer vents, gas hookups, anything that could be screened or just put at the back of the building.
Okay, I'm just going into the site plan to take a closer peek at what's there.
Thank
Just
you.
bear with me a moment, please.
That's fine. We'll come back to that. I just wonder if Mayor Panko wanted to jump in.
Sure. No, I think it's an incredibly good use of the space. Having dirty screen new apartment in our downtown helps support our downtown businesses. The design is very appropriate. And again, thanks to the developer, our planning department, our planning advisory committee for a big effort to pull this together. One question though, I guess, and it relates to the work of the Housing Advisory Committee, which has been discussing universally accessible units and the need for those with the community, and recognizing I think it's probably 15% of these units will have to be considered barrier free. To Planner Grenke, is there any conversation about going steps further to ensure that some units are not just barrier free, but fully universally accessible?
Okay, and I'll ask if Mr. Grenke is ready to answer the first question, just hiding any of those, making sure that the front of the facade doesn't have gas meters and vents and things. Is that, do you have any comment on that one?
So I did review the architectural details, and the vents, I'm seeing a lot of the mechanical fixtures on the roof of the building.
Okay.
So I'm just verifying. I don't see any of the others noted on. I don't see any of the others noted on the site plan, but I can, with council's direction and in consultation with the developers, we can certainly implement those conditions through as conditions of site plan approval.
Okay. I'll have to ask if the council does want to see that. We're assuming that the developers and the planning department would normally look to see how do you make this the best looking building going, and I just assume no one would like the vents out there. So I don't know if you need council direction. I assume that was part of the process, but Councillor McGuire, you wanted to finish off, and then I will go back to Mayor Panko's question.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just for some context, I'm basing this directly on the renderings we got for the Beckwith Street North development by the same developer, and then the end product that's on Beckwith Street North. So that's the only reason I bring it up in this situation.
Okay. Thank you. And Mayor Panko had a question. And did you get that, Mr. Grenke?
Yes. So at At this point, I don't have a proposal for the development to go above and beyond what the building code requires in terms of the barrier-free units. So I understand that there are going to be barrier-free units as the code requires at the 15% ratio, and that's noted in their submission as well. I don't have a proposal for them to exceed that, but I'd be very happy to have that conversation with the developer on the next steps to see if there's an opportunity for that.
And council would also like to see that if Mr. Gurgenki could go ahead and have that conversation. I'm seeing nodding heads. Okay, so that's good. Who's next? Councillor Alford, I think you had your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm supportive of staff's recommendation, and the one interesting one with this building is the landscape terrace. So I don't think we've had that before in Smiths Falls, so I'm anxious to see that. And again, it just adds an aesthetic element to this in the downtown core that I'm sure council all appreciates. This developer's known to us now, and this is his second large project, so or their second large project. So I'm grateful for their continued investment in Smiths Falls. Thank you,
Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the recommendation, as Councillor Alfred noted, and this has come through the Planning and Advisory Committee, and the design is terrific. The building is derelict, and it hasn't been used for years, and it's going to be great infill. People can live downtown, walk to everywhere. I just want to note that, Councillor McGuire, I wasn't sure that you were alive when Durant's burned down, which was Councillor McKenna's and I favorite place.
Got me speechless there. So you've got consensus to the council will pass a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute this site plan control agreement. And staff were asked to go back and have a discussion with the developers regarding moving those barrier-free units to upgrading those, some or all of those, to something full accessibility is what our Housing Advisory Committee is looking for. I'm seeing a desire to find out that information, and not necessarily to include it as a condition of proceeding with the site plan control agreement. I've got that, everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Grenke. I appreciate that. Well done. 8.3 is the CIP application, don't go away, for 45 Becker Street North. Do you want to take that one on, Mr. Grenke, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an application that has been supported by the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee for the replacement of an awning at the Marion style at 45 Beckwith Street North. So the developer proposes to replace the existing awning that's falling apart with a new black awning. It's been reviewed by the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee and supported. So the awning also exceeds the projections that are provided for in the current sign bylaw. So this would require a variance to the sign bylaw to allow an encroachment of 1.8 meters from the front wall. So this would be high enough, well above the range of the public works operational requirements, and so we don't no objections have been raised from any departments with respect to that proposal. So our recommendation is that be approved in principle upon submission of a variance request to the sign bylaw. we're bringing these forward together, so it's so they're considered together in one package by council. So we'll look for council's direction on the on these two items. Thank you.
Comments, direction. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Councillor Alford has more than a thumb up, so she wants to speak, please.
Yeah, I just want, so this is only for the awning, because I do love the rendering that with the band across and the black trim, but this is just for the awning. Because the rendering that staff has provided is, it looks much different than what, there's no change to the signage above this awning.
Mr. Granke?
That's through you, Mr. Chair. That is correct. The broader facade render was proposed through the RED grant program that was guided by the Economic Development Department. But at this point in time, and yes, that proposed a much broader, more wholesale facade change. But at this point in time, they're simply seeking CIP funding for the awning. They're not proposing, not to say that it can't happen at some point in the future, but there's no proposal for the sign or anything else at this point. It's just the awning replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McGuire, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Councillor Alfred, I think that's a great point. And also it'll look slightly different because it's retractable. I think when I read the downtown core design guidelines encourages the awnings to create a pedestrian friendly environment, to create security and a feeling of seclusion from traffic. But with the retractable awning, that's only happening when it's extended. So I'd much more prefer to see fixed awnings and have them out 24/7 and less moving parts to break.
So you're not supporting the recommendation then, or? Because that's what's being recommended, is a retractable awning. So anyways, you can decide when we get to the, it looks as, I'm not seeing any more comments, a lot of thumbs up to proceed. I certainly just would support the recommendation as well. When you think about Durant's and Rita Hotel, this is a business, the Wakim family have had this is an iconic business. They've been there, it's got to be more about 50 years or more. They've hung in there, incredible business entrepreneurs, and I congratulate them on this update. And they are an iconic. They've never changed the look of that. So if we start with the awning, it's a good step forward. So I'm seeing a consensus at council, Mr. Granke, to bring this forward to a future council meeting for approval. Okay, great, thank you. So we're moving on to 8.4. Deputy Clerk Bennett's going to discuss the change to the procedural bylaw.
Good evening. I'm here to present report 2021-174. And the recommendation in the report is that we're seeking council approval to amend our current procedural bylaw to include the inaugural meeting of council provision, and that it shall be organized and announced by the clerk in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act. This change was brought forward due to changes in the Municipal Election Act that outlines that the term would expire on November 14th, 2022. So our current bylaw denotes that our inaugural meeting will be held on December 1st. And with this change in the Municipal Election Act, that is something that we need to amend in our current bylaw. So we're seeking council approval to do that and bring forward a bylaw to the next meeting of council.
Councillor Dwyer.
I think that sounds great. Can't wait for the next election. But it does beg the question where our procedural bylaw update is, because we were dealing with a very comprehensive update to our procedural bylaw, and I understand and appreciate that this is a change that needs to be made under the act, but where are we with the rest of the changes?
I would leave that to CO Morris or Director Costello.
CO Morris.
Yeah, through the chair, Director Costello is with us and she's leading that project, so I would ask her to respond to the question.
Please go ahead.
Certainly. It's in the works. My apologies. There has been a number of bigger policy items that have come to the forefront that have taken me away from the procedural bylaw. Now that the vaccination policy has been passed by council, the procedural bylaw is back on the radar. So you should have it your next draft in January.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, council was asked to submit their comments or suggestions to you ahead of time so that you could have some idea if there was, maybe I'm mistaken, but if people do have thoughts now, there's no harm in getting them into you, Director Costello.
I would love that. To date, I've received Councillor Alfred's comments. I don't think, and I apologize if anybody else has sent them in. I don't think I have received any comments from anyone else.
Okay.
We did take very detailed minutes the last time it was discussed in the hopes of trying to capture all of that discussion. So if anybody has anything that they'd like discussed or they'd like incorporated, if you wanted to reach out to me sooner rather than later, we can have it in the next draft.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
I think Councillor Alfred beat me. Okay. No, I support this, and I'm really happy that there's been an adjustment in the municipal act. I always thought that the election's in October, and you're sitting lame duck for far too long. So this is a welcome change. So I support it.
Okay, Councillor Alfred.
Yeah, there doesn't appear to be any need for discussion as the municipalities exist at the pleasure of the province. So they've already given us our direction about what we're going to do. So not much to talk about.
Okay. I don't want to miss the opportunity, if I may, to comment on the election, as Councillor Dwyer's anxiously looking forward to it, and that's great. I really would encourage people watching and the citizens of Smith Falls to consider running, particularly women, in this next election. A diverse slate of candidates would be so welcome. It is a terrific job and a wonderful experience. And I know if anyone ever wanted to reach out, was considering it, to any one of us on council, we could talk to you over a cup of tea and just talk about what a rich, rewarding experience it is. So I really do think about it. You've got time. The election will be November 14th, I think. So please, the deadline to submit is in September. But anyways, think about running. It's a terrific opportunity, particularly all you wonderful women in our community. Thank you. That's my pitch. So you've got, yes.
Councillor McKenna, I just wanted to clarify respectfully that elections actually, voting day is October 24th. So
sure, close enough.
You have that date out there.
Yes. So it's even more pressure to think about running. That's great. So you've got support. That'll come forward at a council meeting. We'll change the procedural bylaw, amend it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're down to adjournment. I have a motion that the committee adjourn its proceedings at, I don't know, 6:32 and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Dwyer, seconded by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.